Right. Okay, guys, so we have to talk a little bit here. I don't know if Gracia, sorry, Gracia is here. Gracia Guzman, is she here? No. Okay. Erika Narvaez and Monica Durango, are you here?
Yes, Professor.
Yes,
Erika
Professor.
and Monica. Erika and Monica. Grecia is over here. And Milena. You are going to, sorry, give me a second. I have received that I have received a notification this morning that your classmates are not going to continue with my class, right? Monica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you are going to wear you two? Only you two?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. Rafael,
Yes, Professor.
you are going to work alone?
I think so.
Okay, right. Is it not possible that you make a group together?
Professor, I don't know if that will change all of the work that I already have done, and I have worked a lot. Like,
Really?
yes, I haven't put anything like too much on paper, but I already have done many readings about. I have notes, all of my notes. Once I have all the information that I want to write down on my project, I will just like put everything together. But I,
Okay, just continue you alone, okay?
yes,
Right. Okay, so I have here this. Grecia, I have a question. Grecia.
Yes, Professor.
Grecia, did you register on the classroom, on Google Classroom?
Yes. Why?
Sure.
But I think that I did with my personal account, my
Yeah,
personal
but
email.
your personal email, with your personal email, you put your name, but I cannot find you.
I think it's like I need to change the name because it's like Chris Guzman. So
Okay, so you are Chris Guzman.
yes.
Okay, my goodness. The problem
Sorry
is
for
that
that.
we have Christopher Guzman too, so I didn't know if Christopher Guzman and Chris Guzman was the same person. So please, I
Yes,
don't
I'm
know
gonna
you.
change it.
Okay, right, right. Let me see. What else? So Daniela Sepúlveda is here. No. Right. Melissa de la Osa. Melissa. Okay. Guys, if you are thinking about giving up this class, please be conscious that you have until Friday. Okay? If you are thinking about giving up this class. So 3 people have abandoned this class so far for different reasons. And it is better you to conclude if it is possible to continue, you to continue or not. Okay? David Calero is here.
Yes, Professor.
You came last class?
No, Professor. Well, I attend the 1 hour later.
Okay. And you are working with?
With George Gonzalez and Alexandra.
Okay, so you are going to be the second. I'm going to make like a what? Like the tutorial today after an explanation that I'm going to give here, so you're going to be the second group. Okay, I'm going to work with Rafael first and then with you. And please let me know if any other group needs assistance today and I can help you. Otherwise, I'm going to focus on these two groups. Any other group? Because I know that some groups are working on the theoretical framework and that's good. So you can continue doing it. Take your time, read and everything. Okay, so let me know now if you need.
Professor, my group. We are the second group.
Who is talking?
Andres Camilo Martinez Silva.
Andres Camilo.
Laura Sofia and Daniela Castro.
Okay. So we are going to work today. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Any other group?
Yes, Professor, my group, but as we are now in the literature, so I think that you should spend more time with the others and at the end with us.
Okay. Right. Any other? So I have 4 groups today. Right. So I wanted to make an emphasis on this part, on the theoretical framework, because it's the next section that you are going to develop. As you develop, most of you have developed, have established a problem, and you are clear about your problem. I gave you last time some recommendations about adjustments that you have to make to the problem in some cases, the coherence that everything must have, right? This is an important aspect, that everything must be coherent. If you are proposing as a problem something, the question or the objective must respond to that problem that you are portraying and in the context you are working in. And then with the question and the objectives, you can have a clear idea of how your project is going to be developed. What is the way you are going to go towards? Okay, so with this in mind, the next part of the next section is the theoretical framework. And the theoretical framework, according to this definition is taken from some literature. We have the following. Pay attention to this. Theories are developed by researchers to explain phenomena, draw connections, and make predictions. They are based on existing knowledge, observations, and ideas. This is what more or less the definition of theories, right? A theory are those connections, predictions, or knowledge that have been gathered by some experts in order to explain something, right? In order to explain something. That's a theory. And the theory generally are based on research, yes, but also they are developed in some books, right? Developed in some articles or scientific articles that are theoretical articles. So those are the basis of the theory. I mean, you found the theory there. You find the theory there. The theoretical framework is where you discuss, so this is the definition of the theoretical framework, and as I explained on Monday, is where you discuss and evaluate the theories that are most relevant to your research. Okay, so taking into account your research, you are going to go towards certain kind of theories, and you have to start developing those theories, understanding those theories, discussing those theories, right? To make a connection with your research. So the main goal of the theoretical framework is define key concepts. This is the first goal. So if you're working with a key concept, you have to define, you have to explain what you understand, what you can gather from those theories in order to elaborate that concept, okay, according to your research. That's very important. In the theoretical framework also, you evaluate and combine relevant theories and models. So I told you last Monday, it is not a matter of having one author or two authors. You need 3 or 4 different authors in order to evaluate and combine those theories and models, right? For example, if you are going to talk about sociocultural theories, so in the sociocultural theories, you have to explore some authors, and you can choose, for example, Lantov. You can choose, for example, I forgot the name of this Russian one. I forgot the name. Sorry, I have it. The man who wrote La zona de. Tengo una laguna mental.
Vygotsky.
Vygotsky, thank
CPD?
you.
CPD, Zone
Yeah.
of Proximal Development?
Yeah, zone of proximal development, that it's part of the sociocultural theory. So you can work with these men, evaluating and working with Lantov at the same time, and also with Johnson and Golombek, that they are other authors, and you can evaluate, combine, and explain these sociocultural theories in order to like establish the base of your research, of what you are going to do. Then when you have those assumptions, those evaluation, you explain also those assumptions in the light of what your research is going to be. So that's why it says explain the assumptions and expectations that guide your project. Okay? You don't need to make summaries. It is not the point. You don't need to copy everything. You need to write about the theory that it's useful for understanding what you want to do and the perspective that you want to take. Okay? In different theories makes different perspectives. So you can choose the one that you prefer. But it must be after this part of the evaluation. Okay, so this is not an easy task. It is not a matter of taking some books and quote, unquote, unquote. It's a matter of taking books and analyze them, read them, understand them, and work on them. Okay? So by presenting this information, the previous one, you frame. So that's why the theoretical framework is called it that way, frame. Establecen un marco. Okay? O enmarcan, sería el verbo acá. You frame your research and justify your approach by showing that your work is grounded in established ideas. So what you are going to do with the theoretical framework is saying, this is the theory that is the base, okay? Remember that building a research is like building a house. If you build a house without solid bases, the house is going to go down, okay? So you need solid bases in order to build up a very good house. If the base is very strong, you can build a bigger house or a stronger house, right? But if the base is too weak, maybe the house is going to collapse. And the same is going to happen with the research. If your theory is not strong enough, maybe when you get to the results, your research is going to collapse. Okay? So you have to think about this. Right. So how are you going to do this? Okay, sorry, there is another explanation here before the step. It says you might already know what you want to apply and establish the theories, an established theory or a set of theories in a specific context. How do you know? Because you establish a context, because you establish a research gap, because you establish a purpose, right? And because you have already analyzed all the literature that it is part of the literature review that enlighten you like the way you want to follow. right? So maybe you are going to use, I don't know, critical race theory or a social theory in the market research project, whatever of those things. Or you can think about the sociocultural theories, or maybe you want to work going towards the constructivism, something like that. Okay, so you have to choose also like the way. So once you have this question, the research question and the objective, from those research question and from the objective, you are going to take those ideas or those constructs that are going to be the base of your theoretical framework. I did this with some of the groups. Based on the question, based on the objectives, I took some ideas and I told you, this is your theoretical framework. This is the topic of your theoretical framework. So you have to start working on that. You have to start reading on these topics. I think that I did it with many of the groups, right? Many of the groups, you have an idea of what the theoretical framework is going to be, right? So the first part is this: identify the concepts. What are the concepts, the most important concepts that you need to explain and to frame your research, right? So you did it with the research question and with the objectives. The second one is evaluate relevant definitions, theories, and models. For this part, what you need to do is to start looking for who is the most important authors, or who are the most important authors who have talked about these concepts. You have to be sure that the information you find is relevant information. Relevant in the sense that it is not any person. Yeah, for example, if you are going to talk about, I don't know, it is an example. If you're going to talk about, let's see, uses of ICT, ICTs in English language teaching. In my case, I have an article based on that, but maybe I am not the expert you need in order to explain the integration of ICTs, because I just have an article. I don't have theory built up from this idea of ICT. So you have to look for very trustful and very solid authors that can contribute to the construction of the concept and to the construction of the theories that are related to the concept, okay? Remember, there are two things, the concept and the other is the theory. Those are two different things, right? So ICTs in English language teaching is like the concept, but the theories that are behind that are different, okay? So there are other kind of explanations, other kind of issues that maybe you have to explore, that you have to look for regarding to those theories, right? It says, make sure to mention the most important theories related to the key concepts. If there is a well-established theory or model that you don't want to apply to your research, explain why isn't suitable for your purposes. Okay? No quiere decir que si no me sirve que el modelo que este autor está estableciendo no me sirve, lo descarto del todo. No, lo utilizo para justificar lo que sí voy a utilizar. Okay? Why I am going to use the other theories that I'm going to that I have chosen. Okay? Right. So now that we have evaluated the relevant definitions, theories, and models, now you have to show what your research will contribute. So you have a clear idea of what your research is. You have a clear idea about the theories you have read about. Yeah? So now, you have to make a connection of the theory with your research. right? Make a connection. So how can we make that connection? We can follow this question, for example. Will you test a theory or contribute new evidence by collecting original data? Will you use theory as basis for interpreting and understanding your data? That I think that is the most, in most of the cases, this is the question. Does your product critique or challenge an established theory? Are you combining theoretical approaches in a new or unique way? Right? So you have to start seeing what is the role of this theory in your research. Maybe it's going to contribute or it's going to serve as a basis for the interpretation and understanding of your data. Okay? So you have to express it in the paper. If relevant, you can also use the theoretical framework to develop hypotheses for your research, but we don't have hypotheses, we don't hypothesize because this is not quantitative, or in case that you want to do quantitative, you can do that. A hypothesis makes a testable prediction about the outcome of a specific study, while a theory is overarching explanation for why and how certain outcomes happen in general. Okay, so the point here is that you have to use what you read and connect it with your projects. And now I have here some examples to show and to see how these projects have constructed these theoretical frameworks. So we are going to see some examples here. You are not watching it, you're not looking at my screen now. So I have to compartir toda la pantalla, right? So this is not here. Right, so this is one of the articles. This is one article. Remember that what we want to do at the end of this class is to have a solid idea of an article, okay? An article, like it's a structure. Okay, right. So after establishing the introduction in here, the author gets like the point of the context. They explore in here, they explore the literature in order to explain why the research he's doing is suitable for the context, is important, and it is relevant for us, right? And then this he establishes the following. The article starts briefly discussing the notion of teacher identity from sociocultural perspective, then uses to illustrate different ways to understand professionalism in language teaching. This is followed by a discussion of the analytical approach to identity that guided the analysis and description of the research method, and a characterization of the participants of the study. And from the rest is the rest of the points. But what I want to clarify is this one. He establishes here certain points of discussion. First, teacher identity from a sociocultural perspective. This is like the first concept that he wants to explore, right? The second, professionalism in the language teaching education, right? Those are like the two concepts that he wants to explore, because the other one has to do with identity, but it's the same in here. So you can see that he establishes two concepts. So what he did in the paper? So he wrote the theoretical framework, a sociocultural view on teacher identity. So he read books or articles or chapters that gave him the idea of what teacher identity means at the beginning. That's why he mentioned Verghese, Merkhausen, Day, Johnson and Johnson, right? So these people here, and then he explores the part of the sociocultural part. So Cohen, Joba, Olsen, Song, Flores, Da Costa. So those are authors, although they are authors who work also with identity, and he establishes or set the identity from this social cultural view, and he explains what does it mean identity or teacher identity in this social cultural perspective. So you can see here that he did a very long elaboration of the concept, very long elaboration, and then he explored the second concept, teacher professionalism in identity, and he does exactly the same, right? He explores here the theory, he gives some illustrations about what is the meaning of teacher professionalism and how teaching professionalism is going to be suitable for his work or for this paper in particular, right? So that's one of the examples. Let's see another example. This is another ICALA article. This one has to do with la escritura académica en las percepciones de los estudiantes de ciencias humanas de ingeniería. ¿Por qué escogí este? Porque tiene percepciones, muchos de ustedes han escogido las percepciones, y tiene algo que también les gusta mucho a ustedes, que es la escritura académica, de academic writing. ¿Okay? Perceptions of students of human sciences and engineering sciences at the Chilean University. Adicionalmente, está hecha con estudiantes que no son licenciados. El artículo anterior es con profesores de inglés. Este artículo es con estudiantes de inglés de carreras que no son de licenciatura. Right? So it could be interesting for you. So they establish like the problem here. Let's see the problem in the resumen. Presenta un estudio cuantitativo. Ellos se presentan como cuantitativo, transaccional exploratorio, cuyo objetivo principal es conocer la percepción de los dos grupos de estudiantes sobre las distintas dimensiones de la escritura académica. Okay? So this is like the point. They want to know what is this thing, or what do they perceive about the academic writing in the Chilean university. So how does he do that? He tries to work with an enfoque sociocognitivo, right? And then he explores a little more. So here, in el marco teórico, he works alfabetización académica, that it is the first concept that they consider important because it's part of the process. When you are teaching someone else, you are doing a literacy process, right? Luego se dan a conocer las principales dificultades que se presentan en la escritura académica. So this is another concept, escritura académica. Y finalmente se dan a conocer la escala de evaluación de las concepciones sobre la escritura, right? So conceptions or perceptions that they have, right? So they have this first concept, alfabetización académica, and they define then la dificultad de escritura. If you can see, the difference between the first article that we see and this article is huge, because the elaboration of this concept is very short, is very synthetic, right? The other one was a little more extensive because this author has more things to do. But in this case of the dificultades de escritura, he or these authors explain a little more, right? And they talk about las escalas de las concepciones, that it is part also of this theoretical framework, because it's based on that they explore those perceptions. This escala de evaluación de concepciones sobre la escritura, that it is the base, or they are based on some literature, on some theories, in order to consolidate what they want to analyze on the paper, right? So that's another example. Let me see another one. This is another one. This is a topic that it is not used frequently at university. It has to do with non-normative corporalities, transgender blind identity in an English as a foreign language student teacher, right? So this one has to do with an exploration of one teacher, right? About transgender identity and blind identity. So in this case, as they want to explore those issues of identity, they start working with these ideas: identity and non-normative corporalities, the transgender. So they start defining this aspect, right? And identity and normative corporalities, the blind, and they start explaining what is that. Also, they want to work with this idea of border thinking, that it is part of like the positionality, the epistemological positionality. So some of you are constructivist, others are critical, they are more decolonial, and in the decolonial turn, they work with the border thinking as well. And also they include a little bit the queer theory that has to do with the way of seeing the world from the queer perspective, okay, from a queer perspective. So for them, these theories are important to mention and important to clarify in order to explain what is going to happen in the rest of the article with the results and everything. Okay, let me see. I have a other couple of articles more here. Okay, this is by some teachers, some professors from Universidad Luis Amigo in Medellin. Inquiring preservist teachers' narratives on language policies and identity. I was interested because it is about teachers' narrative, sorry. My topic of research, my interest, you know, that it is the teaching practicum and the identity of preservist teachers. So I like this kind of articles. Okay. So as we want to know what they want to do, they start establishing the theoretical framework in this way. This is a very different way of establishing the theoretical framework, because what they did was integrated everything. They didn't use like the subtitles in order to separate every single part. I suggest subtitles because I think that they are important for understanding what you are talking about, okay? But anyhow, we can see, or if you read this paper, you could see that most of the things that they are going to work on or they are going to develop is language policy, identity. This is the other concept. They have to define also the preservist teachers practical. So there are like 3 different points in order to be to work on the theoretical framework. All right. So I think that these examples are enough for you to have an idea of what to do with the theoretical framework. If you want to have a clearer idea, I invite you to read the articles that you have or these examples. The slide is going to be on the Google Classroom in a moment. Okay. So is there any question? As you could see, the extension of the theoretical framework depends on the authors. Some of them did a very elaborated explanation of the theory. Some of them did a very synthetic explanation of the theory, but that synthetic doesn't mean that you cannot, or that you don't include everything. It is even more difficult to work on something very, very synthetic. Okay? So is it clear what you have to do?
Yes, sir.
Sure? Any problem?
Professor, can you show again the step number 1, please?
The step number 1 is selecting the topic or identify the key concepts. Let me show you, give me a second. Identify the key concepts, right? In this step, what we do is to take the concepts from the problem statement or the research question or the objectives, that it is the same. Okay? In the problem of the research question, you need to have the the concepts.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to share this slide in a moment on the classroom. Okay. Okay. Any other thing? Questions? Okay.
Professor.
Yeah.
I just found my question. So, theoretical framework and literary review are the same thing?
No.
No, are two different things.
For me, they are.
Okay.
For me, they are.
So, okay, I have a question that you, in your explanation, answer me like about the hypothesis. Like, and you just tell us that when you are doing qualitative research, you don't use hypothesis. Is
No.
what you said, or what?
No, you don't use hypothesis. Hypothesis is when you hypothesize is because you want to demonstrate something.
Okay.
And you demonstrate something from a quantitative perspective.
Sure. Okay, Professor. And so, I'm based. My study is based on qualitative research. So I have to. You need to involve the theoretical framework and literary review when you are doing your research. It's like the things change a lot because I have stuck on my mind all the steps that you follow when you are doing a project in Spanish. And some things change when you're doing it in English. It's like,
No, it doesn't change.
or I don't know, maybe the type of projects that I was doing, because sometimes they were mixing, because I was also reading some information that sometimes you can have like a mix between qualitative and quantitative.
Yes, you can.
So sometimes it gets me
That's
a
a
little.
mixed method.
Yes.
But a mixed method means more work.
Yeah, I know. So that's why I just want to be focused on qualitative and then get lost.
Okay. Right.
Oh,
So guys,
Professor, you
yeah,
explained theoretical framework. Can you give us
theoretical.
a little bit of
Literature review,
literature review, please?
but we did the literature review
Within the
last year.
presentation? Last year.
Last year, yeah, because I explained that the literature review is like, as its name it says, it's a review of what happens with research on the field that you are working on, right? So that's why I asked you at the beginning to look for 5 different research articles, and I was very emphatic on saying research articles.
On the field that I am researching, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? And from those articles, you have to establish like a ground, like a context. Some of the groups have integrated that to the problem, and that's the position where the literature review must be, right? As part of the problem, right? Explaining the problem, contextualizing the problem. So if you, when we share the projects next week, you are going to find that there is this kind of positioning, okay? By the way, guys, on Monday, you are going to prepare a very short presentation. It doesn't mean that you have to do many slides. It's a short presentation to explain your research problem and to give us an idea of the concepts you are going to include in the theoretical theoretical framework. Okay, I want to share with everybody the problem. Remember to explain what the problem is and to give us the idea of the objectives. Answering the question done by Maria Paula, the objectives are, Maria Paula, I don't know. I don't remember your project. What is your project? What is your group, not Maria Paula? What group? Number 8? Yeah, you establish a purpose, right? You establish a purpose. The purpose. And in the purpose, you establish the objective. The objectives are there. So if you have a purpose, you have an objective, right? Okay. So don't forget, next class, next Monday, please bring a short presentation to explain your research problem and to explain, not to explain, to let us know what are the concepts you are going to use for the theoretical framework. Okay? So I have opened this, the rooms. So if you are not going to be in today's tutorial, don't worry, but I need you to continue working. If you need to work in here in the rooms, you can go and work with your group, but please work. Okay. So I organize it. So please enter to the groups. And I have to start with Rafael. Rafael, your group number 7.
Okay, Professor.